about what we can do more. The EU has already sanctioned over 550 ships, and we have conducted extensive diplomatic talks with flag states that register vessels. Now we aim to have pre-boarding agreements with these states. This is a legal way for one party to board and search a vessel of another country. Slowing down the shadow fleet costs Russia revenues. This is why we will work on more sanctions on shadow fleet, both vessels as well as enablers. Many ministers also raised the financial support for Ukraine. The reparations loan is the most clear-cut way to sustain Ukraine's defense. It is always also the way to show Russia that time is not on their side. Supporting Ukraine is a bargain compared to the cost of Russian victory. Today, we also addressed the attacks on Poland's railway network. Russia's hybrid actions in Europe are increasingly brazen. Russia is committing state-sponsored terrorism. There are many ways we can respond, including additional sanctions and tackling online recruitment of saboteurs. Then on Gaza, the United Nations Security Council resolution for an international stabilization force is a game changer. Peace depends on Hamas not having a role, but it also depends on international partners having a role. EU staff are already working in the Coordination Centre, focusing on humanitarian and security issues. And today, ministers discussed options to expand the EU border monitoring mission in Rafah to other crossing points. We also discussed whether the EU police support mission could take the lead in training the Palestinian police. I welcome that France pledged 100 police officers for that mission. Later today, I will also meet the Palestinian Prime Minister Mustafa to discuss EU support and Palestinian authorities' reforms. Today, we also had ASEAN ministers here for lunch. And over the next few days, we have 70 delegations in town for our Indo-Pacific Forum. Our security is interconnected. What happens in Europe matters in Asia. What happens in Asia matters in Europe. From economic security to supply chains and the protection of critical infrastructure, working with our Indo-Pacific partners is an answer to a more dangerous world. The appetite to do more is clearly there. And next week, European and African leaders will meet in Angola, where peace and security are high on the agenda. And today, the ministers approved the principles of our EU renewed approach to Sahel. The focus is on political and diplomatic engagement, human security, as well as economic opportunities. The aim is to prevent further conflict, tackle root causes of migration, and counter organized crime. In Sudan, the situation is deteriorating sharply. The capture of El Fasher by the Rapid Support Forces opened another devastating chapter in this war. The conflict has brought thousands of deaths and immense suffering. Today we adopted sanctions against Abdelrahim Dagalo, the RSF's second in command. And this sends a signal that the international community will come after those who are responsible. All 27 EU member states today called on the parties to resume negotiations for a ceasefire. And finally, on Western Balkans, we had the dinner yesterday with the Western Balkan ministers, and we discussed common challenges and how to work even more closely together on security and foreign policy issues. The closer we get to the enlargement, the more we need to stick together and defend our democracies against hybrid attacks and foreign interference. And with that, I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. Jorge.
Hello, Jorge Liboreiro with Euronews. High Representative, I think today we all have a strong sense of deja vu, no? Because this story, we have seen it before. The United States and Russia, they work on a plan behind everybody's backs. The plan is unacceptable to Ukraine. Europeans are angry. They demand a seat at the table. The media writes that Europe is being sidelined. I mean, you know how that goes. And it's a problem for you, at least for your public perception. What exactly can you do to change this, to ensure that this doesn't happen again? Because the stakes at play here are enormous for you, for the European Union. So what do you think you need? You need a new strategy, new approach, new channel of communication? What do you need to do to ensure this doesn't happen and you really have a seat at the table? Thank you.
Well, ministers in the room were quite, solid and I would say calm about this, because we have seen this before, and because different peace plans cannot work if the Europeans and Ukrainians do not agree to this. So that's why we focus today's discussions on what are we doing and what is our course of action. Like I said, we have a 2-point plan. One is to pressure Russia, and today we discussed very intensively how to work on the shadow fleet, because we also had the head of intelligence, European intelligence, in our meeting, giving concrete examples and numbers how the sanctions on shadow fleet are really affecting Russian revenues to fund this war. And this is our approach, and that's why we focused on our approach. For any peace plan to work, it needs Ukrainians and Europeans to agree.
Thank you. Gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Alex Caddy for TVP World. I wanted to ask about the shadow fleet, first of all. When do you expect there will be concrete changes in the European powers' ability to actually impact these ships and actually make the difference you want to see? A second question on the Polish rail incident. You mentioned yesterday the example of Baltic Sentry, and you said we need something similar here. I didn't have a follow-up then, so I have a follow-up now. Could I ask you, are you planning a broader response to protect critical infrastructure like that Polish rail incident, which the Polish Foreign Minister just said was designed to injure, if not kill people? Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. First of all, on your first question,